where the U.S. partnership joins together and follows up on our mission, our first mission to go to India. Our ministers have also been to the Middle East and to Turkey. We're going to continue this process, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to take the Council of Exporters in this province. We're going to take the advice of Lionel and his team as we seek to build these relationships and open up markets. You know, if we had a chance, for example, to sell our uranium in China, because we can't right now. We do not yet have a nuclear cooperation agreement with that country. Australia does. There's great precedence for civilian nuclear cooperation agreements, because Australia has hammered theirs out. It is a potentially massive opportunity for this province, measured in the billions of dollars, as they have the most aggressive and prolific nuclear program in the world today, and we have 26% of the world's uranium. Not 1 ounce of yellow cake yet sells in that country. That's one of the issues we will continue to work at there, and it's why we have to continue to be engaged. Engagement also requires representation, and so you may also know that we've opened up an office in Shanghai, not as the province of Saskatchewan, but a new West partnership office together with Alberta and British Columbia, where the sign on that office does not say it's the office of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and BC. It just talks about Western Canadian natural resources, taking advantage of the great brand that is Western Canada's, and we will be opening up a trade office as well in India in the months ahead. As important as it is for us to diversify our trade markets, and it is, as you may have heard some months ago, that it is the expressed vision of the government of Saskatchewan that we would become less dependent on our friends in the United States as our number one source of, as our number one export market, just as we want to diversify to China, to Japan, to India, to Asia, to other parts of the world. We also must tend to that relationship with America. 60% of our exports go to that country. And so while we diversify, we must also be building our relationship in the United States. And ladies and gentlemen, we've been working hard to do that through a face-to-face engagement with leaders, business leaders, and political leaders in that country. Shortly after being elected to government, we retained the services of David Wilkins, the former ambassador to Canada. After he stepped down as ambassador, he joined a firm called Nelson Mullins. Rather than have a full-time office in Washington, we decided that we would retain his services. I had come to have a very good relationship, one built on trust and friendship with Ambassador Wilkins, and his bona fides on both sides of the aisle and his firm's bona fides on both sides of the aisle in the United States are excellent. And so one of the manifestations of that, one of the benefits of that relationship has been a first ever congressional delegation to the province of Saskatchewan. I should say first in 100 years, happened last year, when 3 senators and the White House official in energy and the environment were in Saskatchewan to find out about our leadership in carbon capture and sequestration, to find out about their potential partnership with a reference plant in southeast Saskatchewan as well. They wanted to find out about uranium. They didn't know about the fact that we were the number 2 supplier to them in terms of oil from this country, that we sold them more oil than the country of Kuwait. There is no substitute, and I don't need to tell people in this room that, there's no substitute for face-to-face meetings. There is no substitute for people, rather than watching the press coverage about oil sands or heavy oil development, no substitute to go and actually see it, and to see what companies are trying to do to make sure our environmental footprints around energy production are getting smaller, to see our leadership position in carbon capture and sequestration, to learn about what's possible in this province of ours in terms of uranium value-added opportunities. And so we hosted our first in the last 100 years last summer, and they came back a couple of weeks ago. In fact, they were joined this time by the ranking Republican member of the Senate Agricultural Committee, Saxby Chambliss, the senior senator from Georgia. He's passionate about food security. You should have seen his eyes wide with amazement when he found out what's happening at Vito and what will continue to happen at Vito here in Saskatoon, and how the newest lab there will work on ways to mitigate damage should the worst happen in terms of other activities, food security-based terrorist potential that the Americans are very concerned about. The senator was equally impressed to learn Vito has a productive and long-standing relationship with the United States military to protect soldiers and civilians in the event of bioterrorism of any kind. They didn't know that until they came. Senator Lindsey Graham is one of Saskatchewan's best friends today. He was on the news last night, if you saw him on CBC, talking about how Canadian oil is not only clean compared to other places in the world, but it is safe and it is conflict-free. That is an opinion leader in the Senate. Senator Graham's one who's built bridges to the Obama White House, and he knows this province. And so does Senator Chambliss, and so does Senator Hagan, and so do those White House officials, and Carol Browner, and Senator Kerry, with whom we met, and Senator Lieberman. But we have to get that message out directly. We have to get to Washington on missions and invite them here and develop this relationship and explode some of the myths that might occur around trade, because we know how dangerous they are to a trade relationship, especially at a time of economic stress when protectionist sabers are rattling in the United States. And because of STEP, because of all of you, and I hope because of the engagement policy of the government of Saskatchewan, we're going to carve out for ourselves in this province an excellent position when it comes to our friends in the United States, just as we engage with the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, in the decades ahead, the world is increasingly, I believe, going to be looking for food security and energy security. There are questions around these issues that are fundamental to the future of growing economies, more traditional economies. We have the answers to those questions in this province. This room has the answers to those questions on food security and energy security, more sustainable energy security. By virtue of exchange, one man's prosperity is a benefit to all others. Yes, it's part of the agenda of our government to see continued growth and continued prosperity. And we know that trade and that exchange is part of your agenda as well, but it also represents an amazing opportunity for the province that I love and that you love, and even for our guests from outside of the province here today that you will grow to love. It goes to a vision that we have for Saskatchewan, something that we've understood intuitively for some time, that we do have the answers to those questions that the world's going to be asking. And now we're going to answer them together. Thanks for your time this morning.